Namaste. Welcome back to Mindful Surrender Yoga with Nancy. And today we're going to answer another question from the jar. On this very rainy June day, it can be disheartening for some people to see the rain as often as we've seen it in my part of the world over the course of the month, but it is also very necessary, and we can look at it in the way that it is helping to keep the forest fires, which have been raging out of control in the Atlantic provinces over the last little while, under control. So the rain is much needed, and thankful for it, despite how challenging it can be sometimes to accept the lack of sun that we've been getting. But we will get the sun. The sun is still there under the clouds. It's going to come soon enough. Anyway, I am going to continue answering the questions. So I'm going to pull out a question, and I'm going to read it, first of all, before I set my timer. Okay. And every time I look away from my watch, my timer goes off. So let me see if I can fix that. Okay, here we go. So Michael Singer said, true freedom is freedom from self, not for self. What did he mean by that? Michael Singer said, true freedom is freedom from self, rather than for self. What does he mean by that? That's a really good question, and I like that because I, of course, like Michael Singer, and I tend to listen to him every morning on his podcast from Temple of the Universe. And maybe you've read his books, Untethered Soul, Living Untethered, and The Surrender Experiment. They're all worth a read because they have a great deal of practical wisdom in them, regardless if you practice yoga or not. So what does it mean, or what did he mean by saying that freedom was freedom from the self rather than for the self? Well, we often think of freedom, we're running away from something, right? We're running away from that which is causing our concern. We say that we're doing it for me. We get away because we want something for this me. But in true spiritual awakening or true spiritual freedom, what we're looking for is to get away from that little me that is causing most of our problems. As we begin to see that most of our issues are not problems that the world is creating, but problems that the mind is creating, and the mind being this collective entity of, experiences that we've had all through our lives, our likes and dislikes, our opinions, our beliefs, our conditioning, what we call me, then we will see that that is the cause of the problem. That's the mind, the mental modifications we put over this pure peace state of being that we are meant to be experiencing. So if we want to reconnect to that true state of being who we are, the peaceful state, the higher awareness state, the higher consciousness state, then we have to get rid of this little me that's in the way, this personality, this thing with all its preferences, basically, that is causing us a host of problems. Without this me that decides it wants certain things and doesn't want other things and goes about to ensure that it gets what it needs, seeing itself and the body and the mind of itself as being all there is, and separate entities, that at the mercy of other entities around us, at the mercy of a world that is challenging, then if we continue looking at it like that, then we are bound to be less than free. We become imprisoned in our minds, imprisoned in our thinking, imprisoned in our belief systems, imprisoned in this idea of limitation, not knowing who we truly are. So, to get freedom, and freedom, of course, is, I'll use the woo-woo term enlightenment, but I know that has a host of different meanings for other people, but awakening, again, has a host of different meanings for other people. But if we look at that as freedom, that coming to true realization, to truth of who we are and what we're not, then we will definitely find the peace and joy that is natural for us, the love that naturally flows from within, not from without. And we'll stop looking so hard out there and being so dependent on getting what we want from the outside world, so disappointed when we can't get it, so disappointed when we do get it, it leaves us, like all things in this external world are not meant to last forever. When we can get beyond that and get beyond the need to push away those things that we could deem unpleasant, things that trigger our samskaras, or those deep-seated feelings that we've been running from, if we can get beyond that, get beyond preferences basically, we will see that what we really need freedom from is ourselves, not life, not what the world is doing, not the people around us who are not so nice, not the job situation that is stressful, not the rain that doesn't seem to end. What we need freedom from is this entity that resists all that. The little me, the self, the mind-made, idea of who we are, that resists and pushes away that which it deems as unpleasant, and pulls in or seeks and grasps and clings to those things that it deems as pleasant, as if that was going to make it okay inside, or by, not having it will be okay inside. Once we push that self away, once we gain freedom from it, knowing that we are not it, that we do not have to be identified into its wants and desires and its aversions, then we are free. The whole process of going deeper and becoming more aware of who we truly are is all about establishing the truth of who we are, which is the experiencer, not the experience. We are the objective observer, the witness consciousness that observes what is going on around us, observes those things and observing the little me as well as being the entity that doesn't like or likes or has preferences. When we fall back into the reality of who we are, the great way, as the third Zen patriarch would describe it as, absent of our preferences, absent of the little me's tendency to grab and cling and want and unwant or dislike, then we are free. That's what freedom is. Freedom isn't running away from a situation, running away from an individual, running away from a job, running away from, danger. And it's identifying who we are beneath the shell that we wear, that we call me, and allowing that shell on the surface to dissolve. That's freedom. And it is a process. It is a process to establish this non-conditional joy that's not dependent on the external world to provide. The non-conditional joy that's not dependent on the external world to stop giving us the negative things or the unpleasant things. The non-conditional joy is who we are basically as the experiencer. And instead of resisting and running from life and the experiences it offers, we, as the experiencer, can simply enjoy being the experiencer of the experience. Enjoy every experience regardless of what comes our way. That is freedom. What prevents us from doing that? The self that's in the way, this little me and all its neediness, is in the way of us experiencing that non-conditional joy, that true peace, that freedom that we're all longing for, whether we know it or not. So when Michael Singer says that we seek freedom not for the self, we're not going to feed this entity, this me. We don't want to get any bigger and for it to get any bigger and more in the way than it already is. We want to free ourselves from it. So freedom is not for it, but it is from self. That's where we need to focus our energy. And letting go of this me that we're so attached to is not an easy process, and it's not going to happen overnight. It'll begin to dissolve the more and more we realize that we become aware of this consciousness that's underneath it. When we go deeper into, the depths of life and living and understanding beyond the superficial layer, then we will come to see who we really are. We'll come to see that this me is in the way, and it will just gradually dissolve. We become less and less attached, less and less identified with it, less and less attached to its legs, less and less averted by its dislikes, and we'll live in a neutral state, basically, where it's neither good or bad, right or wrong, should be or shouldn't be. It just is. We'll accept the isness and the suchness of life without these preferences that self is so inclined to have. Because without self, there'd be no preferences. Without preferences, there'd be no grasping and clinging and avoiding. Without grasping and clinging and avoiding, there would be no resistance to what is. With no resistance to what is, we'll be open to the Shakti flow within, to the pure, non-conditional joy that is who we are. So yes, when we seek freedom, when we seek that pure, non-conditional joy that is there in every moment that we wake up, regardless of what is happening around us, we are seeking freedom from self, not for self. Well, anyway, I'm not sure how much time I have left. My phone, oh, look at that. Perfect timing. Thank you so much for joining me, and have a wonderful day, regardless if it's raining or not in your part of the world. Namaste.